Hello everyone and welcome to our live course wrap-up, the final session in our Teaching with Moodle MOOC with Mary Cooch and Helen Foster. I'm going to take you through a few highlights of the last 4 weeks and talk about what's happening next. Then Helen will give you a final tour of the workshop activity and we'll look at a few of your practice courses. If you'd like us to look at your practice course, perhaps you'd like to paste the link in the course chat at the top of the Learn Moodle, the Teaching with Moodle course. You can also ask us questions in there, and if you happen to have a Twitter account, you can tweet us a question with the hashtag LearnMoodle. So I'm going to share my screen with you now, and in a moment I'm just going to ask Helen, can you see?
Yep.
Okay, right. Yes, this is the course wrap-up. So over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you a few highlights of the last 4 weeks and answer the 2 questions, what happens next, and can I use your materials, which have been asked several times during the last week on our Teaching with Moodle course. In terms of highlights, you may have seen a useful block, the activities block, which lists any activities on the course. And if you click on one, so for example, if we were to click on forums, it takes you to a screen where you just see those forums or those activities. And so we can see here, for instance, over on the right, the numbers of discussion topics started. So the Introduce Yourself forum was very popular with almost 2,000 people starting a discussion, introducing themselves. I took this screenshot yesterday, so we may well have more forum posts now. The questions and answer forum, 563 questions were asked with people helping out giving answers. And the Share Your Good Ideas forum had nearly 200 people sharing their good ideas. Now, that's fewer because obviously in a beginner's course, you need to be more experienced to have a good idea to share. But if you were a beginner, you were welcome to reply to those posts. And a couple that I'd like to highlight that had quite a few replies here. Elizabeth started a discussion about the good idea of those task completion boxes, the check boxes to the right of each activity, and 33 people joined in the conversation on that. I'll talk about that in a moment. And Scott started a discussion about how pictures were a good idea. And if I just show you his first post, it was a light-hearted post but actually made a very serious point. And Scott said it would be nice if instead of those default grey avatars, everyone uploaded a picture so we could get to know each other better and the atmosphere was more friendly. And you can see the ratings, it was rated there, we'll definitely use this idea. So this was a long conversation with people posting interesting pictures about themselves in different environments. So it's a very friendly discussion, but also made the important point of the importance of having your photo in your Moodle course. And then Elizabeth, talking about those completion boxes, made me think perhaps you would like to see what we, the teachers, or what the facilitators see when you tick those boxes. So as a teacher, if we go in the administration block to reports, activity completion, we can then see the list of all the participants. I've just done a screenshot of 3, and I've blanked out the names, as you can see, down the left, and then across the page, every single activity with the completion boxes ticked or not ticked, depending. And we can also see whether they're automatically completed or manually completed, depending on whether it's a solid box or a dotted border. And as you can see, there are quite a lot. There are over 30 here. And in order to get the completer badge, you had to complete all of the activities. And that made me think maybe you would like to see what we see of badges from the teacher's point of view. And if we go again to administration, badges, manage badges, as a teacher, we can see which badges we've enabled. So we have the completer badge and the participant badge with all of the criteria. So you can see here that it was a very difficult badge to get, the completer badge. And we can see how many people have received the badge. Again, this was taken yesterday, this screenshot. I think there are more who've got badges today. And if we were to actually click the number, that would take us to a screen where we could see the names of the people who had achieved those badges. Something else that I thought you might be interested in is that early on in the course we set a choice, a voting activity, to find out what your previous experience with Moodle was. This is a course that's aimed at complete beginners, and it was very gratifying to see in the results, and you can see the results too, that if we look across, over 3/4 of the people who responded to our choice said they were either new or had hardly used Moodle at all. So it was nice to know that the course was aimed at beginners, and we had beginners mostly who were joining in. And a couple of popular activities where we asked you to contribute were the glossary and the database. And the glossary, we asked you to contribute a teaching term from your educational organisation or from your country. And it gave us the opportunity to demonstrate the useful random glossary entry block. As you can see here, it's a side block, and the teacher can set it up so that at regular intervals, for instance, every time you come to the course or refresh the page, you have a new entry from that particular glossary. And so you helped us to demonstrate a good Moodle feature in that glossary block. And another popular activity where we asked you to contribute was the Food for Moodlers database. And we had lots of mouth-watering recipes, makes you very hungry and thirsty to read it. One very popular fruit was bananas. We had quite a few recipes for bananas. Here is a Finnish banana cake recipe. And if we scroll down, you remember we set ratings, and so this got an average rating of nice, and we also allowed comments, and you can see here that Annabelle's comment means that she would probably like to try a slice of that Finnish banana cake. And then finally, I'd like to thank you for completing the 2 feedback activities in week 1 and at the very end of the course, because that enables us to adapt the course for next time round. And as you can see in the description, it is anonymous, so you can be open with us and we won't know who said what. But again, I thought you might be interested to see it from the teacher's point of view. And so as a teacher, if we go into the analysis of the feedback, where we asked you to rate the Teaching with Moodle course, we get a line. And we can see here 44.74% said it was outstanding, 49.71% said it was good. So that's very encouraging. And where we asked you to enter free text to give your comments, as you can see here, there aren't any names, and so we can just see what you've commented, but we don't know who you are. And as well as the nice comments, which is we thank you for, this is also useful for us to improve, to see the constructive suggestions for next time round. And in fact, next time round leads me on nicely to answering the question, what happens next? And basically, this is now the end of this course. And so from tomorrow, you will be able to see the course, but it will be read-only. Read-only means that although you'll be able, for some time, a limited time, to be able to see the forum posts, you won't actually be able to join in the forum posts. You'll just be able to read them. Likewise with the other activities. Your course, we're very keen that you can save it, or what Moodle calls back it up, and take it away with you, perhaps to use in your own Moodle site. And so you have another week to work in your course and to save it or back it up. And again, after that, you won't be able to add anything to it. And we will delete these courses eventually, because obviously we want to start with a clean site for the 9th of August when we're running our next course. So we're repeating the course with improvements which you have suggested, starting on the 9th of August. And then finally, we have been asked about the course materials, which people have found useful and have asked, can we use them? So I'd like to point out, in several sections we have books. These are the 2 books in week 1, for example. And if you take a look inside those books, they're made up of text and also videos. This text you can copy and paste into anywhere, that's fine. You will also see on each page documentation links, and these take you to the official Moodle documentation, which lives on docs.moodle.org. There is documentation in other languages, but the most comprehensive documentation is in English, and it's in for every version, and you are free to use it, copy it, adapt it, print it for your own purposes. And when you get more experience with Moodle, you're also free to contribute to it, because it is a wiki, as we've used a wiki in our course for your staying healthy tips. Something else that might help you, and you can try this out in your test course, is that if you're in your course and you're adding an activity, perhaps you're adding a forum and you're struggling with some settings, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll see a link, Moodle Docs for this page, and it will take you straight to the documentation page for the activity that you're struggling with. So you don't even need to have anything aside. You can access help and documentation right within your Moodle. So all of that is available to you on a permanent basis, the documentation. Also in our books we had videos, and if you go to any of the videos and click where it says watch on youtube.com, that takes you to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/user/MoodleHQ, and here are all of the videos which you can embed in your own sites or use as you wish, plus other videos and some introductory videos in different languages as well. So the videos and the documentation are permanently available. Okay, so I've covered those 3 points. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And I'm going to pass over to Helen. And we've had a lot of interest in the workshop, so Helen's going to talk a bit about the workshop.
Thank you very much, Mary. Before we look at the workshop, I'm just going to share the chat activity, which, as in previous live sessions, is very active. Lots of people with comments and questions. So let me just do that. Okay, just scrolling up. Elizabeth asks, is the awarding of badges automatic on completion? But I think Mary answered that it was. And then Anne comments, oops, it's jumping around a little bit, everyone's talking. Let's try and keep it still. Saying about the glossary auto-linking being a bit strange, and also I can agree with that, because even in this chat window there's lots of words that are turned orange and linked, and I would say that Mary and I have certainly learned a lot from you by participating in this MOOC, and one thing we've learned, we're making notes on improvements for the next time we run the course, and one improvement we're going to make is to turn off the glossary auto-linking in a lot of activities, because as you point out, it can be a little bit distracting, all those links. Elizabeth says, oops, let me find it again. I'm going to miss my Moodle class and all the other Moodlers. This has been a great international experience. What I would say to that is, just because the Learn Moodle MOOC is coming to an end, doesn't mean to say that you should stop participating in the forums with the Moodle community. You're all very welcome to join Mary and I on moodle.org. There's lots of forums there for particular activities, and there's a special Teaching with Moodle forum that you're very welcome to post any questions or comments you have and join the discussions there. So it's not coming to an end completely now. Any more comments or questions? Yeah, Elizabeth's just asking, can glossary linking be selective? Yep, you can turn off glossary linking or any of the other filters in a particular activity. So you most likely want to turn it off if you've got a glossary and a quiz in the same course. You don't want the quiz questions to have little glossary pop-ups telling the students what the words mean. So that's quite easy to do. Any other questions? It seems Elizabeth likes our English accents.
Just to say, Helen, actually that makes me smile, because I lived in the US for a year and people were always saying, I like your accent. And I would say to them, no, you're the ones with the accents. We don't have the accents. We're the original. You have the accents. But I do understand, and it's nice that you like them.
Okay. Let me just stop sharing the chat window there and have a quick look on Twitter, see what people are saying there. So the tweets with the Learn Moodle hashtag, I see that lots of people are tweeting about obtaining their completers badge. Very well done, all of you who managed to obtain the completers badge. It's much more difficult than an average MOOC, that you have to complete 30 different activities. So very well done, all of you. We're really proud of you all. That's really great. And I would like to say thank you very much, all of you, for your really kind comments about enjoying the course and learning lots. It's really a pleasure for Mary and I to read all such lovely feedback. It's great. Okay, don't think there's any any questions on Twitter. So let me look now at the workshop and behind the scenes. Now, I mentioned in a previous week that if you'd like to look behind the scenes of the workshop as a teacher, then you can go to our school demo site, school.demo.moodle.net. I'm just sharing it now, but there's a nice demo link in the bar at the top when you're on any of the Moodle community sites, and you can log in with a variety of different accounts, but we'll have a go as a teacher here. And then there's lots of things you can try as a teacher. If you're upgrading your site to 2.7 or 2.8, then you can look and see what the new features are. And here we have our workshop activity. So this is exactly the same workshop activity that we've done in our Learn Moodle MOOC. At the moment it's closed, but we can easily switch phases. Oh, I forgot to log in as a teacher after all that. There we go. Okay, one thing to note about the workshop, if you're a teacher setting it up, is that you need to figure out how you want to allocate submissions. There's 3 ways to allocate submissions. There's manually, where you can look and choose who's going to review who else, which is fine if you don't have very many students in your course. There's scheduled allocation, which is what we used in our Learn Moodle MOOC, which means as soon as the workshop moves into the assessment phase, people are automatically allocated using this random allocation, which is the 3rd method. So you can have it done automatically scheduled, or you can do it manually. Well, sorry, not manually. You can go to the random allocation tab and just choose here whether you want how many reviews you want and whether it's per submission or per reviewer. Now, in our workshop, we allowed late submissions, and all these late submissions had to be allocated. So every day I was coming to the workshop and just allocating all the late submissions. Okay, so that's a little bit about allocation. Let's just switch it to this grading evaluation phase, because that's a really interesting phase to see as a teacher. And here, scrolling down, I can see all the grades that the students obtained for submission and for assessment, and I can check that they all make sense. And if I find any that don't look quite right, then as a teacher I can go in, and if I scroll down, then I can decide I want to override it and give it a different grade. And when I've overridden a grade, you can see it appears here in green and the red is crossed out. I can also, if I need to, with late submissions, if anyone's not had their work assessed, then I can look at an assessment and I can, look at a submission and I can do my own assessment as a teacher. So Mary and I, the deadline of our workshop in the Learn Moodle MOOC, we ended up doing a few assessments to make sure everybody, even those who submitted right at the last minute, at least had something. One more thing, you may notice here, this submission is coloured blue. What that is that it's a published submission. So you can choose really good submissions. They can be published so that other students can have a look at them. And the way you publish a submission, if you click on it and then scroll down, near the bottom there's a checkbox here to publish the submission. Okay, if all this sounds a little bit complicated, don't worry. What I suggest you do if you're trying a workshop is, if you scroll to the bottom of the page, I think Mary mentioned this, when you're logged in as a teacher, there's a link to the documentation specifically about that page. So if you click on this link, you'll get the documentation explaining all these things that you can do in the workshop as a teacher. Okay, if you have any further questions about the workshop, I'm just going to check in the chat now. I did notice in the questions and answers forum there were a few workshop questions, especially about the calculations. They are rather complicated, so I tried to answer them in the forums, but please do post if there's anything else that's still unclear. Let me just look now back at the chat. Chat window. Okay. I'm going to go from the bottom up because then it doesn't jump too much. Hart is asking, is published submission new for 2.8? No, I don't think so. It's been there a while. It's hard to spot though. You need to know it's there, I think. I see Mary's answering questions in the chat. That's good. I must say that with this Learn Moodle MOOC, you've made really great use of the chat activity in the course. It's great to see so many of you participating in our live session. Okay. There's some comments about Moodle partners. Any other? Did you spot any questions, Mary, particularly?
No, not particularly. You won't be able to download our course, but as I said previously, you can get all of the teaching information there, documentation, videos, and so on. And someone mentioned themes. There are plenty of free themes, contributed themes, although obviously you need to make sure they fitted your version of Moodle.
Okay, so we have just a little bit of time left to have a look at a few of your practice courses. So let me just share the screen again. And Mary's going to talk about one course that she found that she particularly liked. Mary, I think you're muted.
Yeah, it's just told me to unmute myself. Dear me, I'm very good at that, and I forget on the last day. Yeah, this is Rita's course. It's another English as a second language, foreign language course, which interests me. But what I particularly liked, and maybe you could scroll down and show this, Helen, is her use of quizzes and different question types. There's one about a bottle boat set sail, and if you could go into that one and then have a go at it. This is an example of embedded answers or cloze test or gap fill, if you like, which is a Moodle question type. It does take some working out because you have to format it in a certain way to get it to display like that. But it is very worth it, especially if you are teaching languages. There's also something called hot potatoes, which has been around a while, which does this in a similar kind of way, but much simpler, which you can also use. But what you see here is a question type standard in Moodle, and as you can see, it works very, very well. I think there is another quiz that Rita's done. If you could go back, and I think this is in her listening section. It's very much appealed to me the way that she's separated into reading and listening and so on, and writing, just as I would. In the listening section, she's added a listening test, and it's quite a straightforward quiz, but what I wanted to point out was that you see she has a sound file at the top there, which could also be a video file, and so quizzes can incorporate multimedia, so you would listen to that file and then answer questions on it afterwards. So it's quite simple, but it shows you the potential of quizzes in different subjects.
Great, thanks Mary, and thanks a lot Rita for sharing your course for us to have a look at. I'd just like now to have a look at a course that this is Sandra's course. She mentioned in the chat at the beginning of the session. If there's anyone else that would like us to look at your course, I think we can probably look at one more this live session. Anyway, this is Sandra's course, and I really like the way she's using different blocks. Here she's got an HTML block with a fun cartoon in. She's showing there's a lot you can do with HTML blocks. This looks like it's got a little weather app that updates the weather. She's also got, this is the people block. If you especially want your participants to be able to look at the participants list, then that block is useful to add. And here's the online users block, which shows Cassandra's online at the same time. So this is great for your students to be able to see who else is online at the same time as you. And finally, Cassandra's got the blog menu block. And this is great for if you want your students to be blogging about different activities in the course. So really good use of blocks there, Cassandra. Mary, is there anything you'd like to say about this course especially?
No, but I do agree with the use of blocks. I sometimes think that judicious use of blocks can make a course not only a lot more welcoming, but also a lot more useful, having things to the sides as well as activities in the middle. So I'd agree with that, yes. And she's even practiced embedding some things as well in the course, I can see.
Great. Okay, let's see if there's anyone in the chat who would like us to look at their course. Elizabeth is asking about the participants list. It's asking, is this current participants? So let's just click on the list in this course. I know it's in Dutch, but I'm learning Dutch. So I can translate for you, hopefully. So here's the participants list. It's also linked to, from your navigation block here, this Dale Namers is also the word for participants. And it shows the last time everybody was in the course. I think as a teacher you get slightly more detail on this list than students. So if someone has completed the class, would they still be listed as a participant? If they're no longer enrolled, then they won't be listed there anymore. It depends what you mean by completed.
And I've just seen a question in the chat from another question from Elizabeth. She went to a different course and the teacher had different blocks. Yes, usually as a teacher you have control over which blocks you can add and which order. It might be that the administrator has set some blocks as sticky, in other words you have to have them everywhere on the site, but usually you can organise your own blocks to a large extent.
James, I see in the chat, has shared a link to his practice course, so let's have a look at that one now. Here's James's course, Teaching Pronunciation to Young Learners of English. So just have a scroll down.
More language courses, that's right up my street. First of all, I'd be interesting to see what's inside the books there. He's got several books. Books is a nice way of displaying things, and I can see there James has got videos and text inside the book. That's a good idea. Maybe he got the idea from us. Who knows? Yes, very good. If you have a lot of text, I think it's always try to avoid having large chunks of text on the actual course page. So if you can, as much as possible, I would put text into pages or into books.
Looking back at the course page again, I'm just going to scroll down. One thing to mention, if you're not going to use the news forum, then you can get rid of it. And also this latest news block, which doesn't look very nice if you don't have any news. So the way to get rid of it is if you go into your course administration edit settings, and it's not very intuitive, which is why we're showing it, and it says news items to show. Maybe explains a little help pop-up there. If you set it to 0 news items, then the latest news block will not be displayed. So we can set that to 0, and that will get rid of the latest news block, and then you can go and delete the forum the news forum at the top of the page as well. I'm not going to do that for you though, James, just in case you actually want to post in the news forum. Okay. Anything else you'd like to say, Mary?
It's very nice to see videos directly on the page as you enter it, because it makes it interesting. You just need to be careful not to have too many, because if they're trying to bring them in from another site like YouTube, it might sometimes, depending on your internet connection, make your site a little bit slow to load. So it's just something to be aware of.
Wow, James, you worked really hard on this
Yes.
course. Of lots and lots of different activities there. And there's a...
I think.
Sorry?
This is a labour of love, I think, this. Obviously a passionate subject.
Wow, yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, James, for sharing your course. I think that's probably... Let me stop sharing my screen. I think that's about all we have time for. I'll just check very quickly if there's any tweets. Let me share. Okay, Mirella, is that how you say your name? Not quite sure. She's asking, how do you enter the Learn Moodle chat? Because she's still got some questions. If you go to the Teaching with Moodle course, then the chat activity is quite near the top of the page there. And there's a link, click to access the chat. You can also ask questions on Twitter. And as we mentioned before, please do come along to moodle.org, the forums there, and ask questions. And if you speak another language apart from English, then we've got lots of forums in all different languages. Morella's saying it's finally worked. See you in the chat. Okay, thank you very much for all your questions and comments. Mary, would you like to finish off?
Yes, I think we've had a good look through the workshop and some practice courses. We've tried to answer as many questions as we can. So that's it really. So from Helen and from me, it's a big thank you, because as you learn Moodle, it helps us improve our knowledge of Moodle too, and to improve it for next time. So thank you very much, and hope to see you on the forums of moodle.org. Goodbye.
Goodbye.